Like when are we going to be able to say, okay, this is our new experience, right? Where so much is hybrid, so much is in person, where, you know, we don't have to say, oh, well, maybe we might be going back to physical, or maybe hybrid 100% of the time. Is it like, how soon are we going to be able to say, this is it, let's go forward?
I wish it would have already been done, because this conversation has just dragged on and on and on. And
Amen, sister.
instead of just saying, hey, you have to come back in, you have to sit in a cubicle and be miserable and look at your computer all day and then leave. No one wants to do that.
She's forgotten what it's like to live on the outside.
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
Creating exceptional AV experiences, audiovisual gear in high-profile areas, and the state of hybrid learning and working. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 663, recorded Friday, May 3rd, 2024. Hybrid experiences. This is AV Week, the weekly wrap-up of the biggest stories in AV that we could find. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. First and foremost, brand spanking new CEO, Kristen Bidwell. Good Lord, easy for me to say. She is the new CEO of AV Consulting Team. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is a longtime friend, Mr. Brock McGinnis from Nationwide. How are you, sir?
I'm well, Tim. Thank you for having me.
And a young man I actually met over the course of 2 weeks, thanks to my buddy Chris Netto and Crestron. Danny Hayasaka. Danny is from Call One. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Good to see you virtually. I got to meet him in person at Enterprise Connect. He was running around there, but also at we were out spending time with our friends at Crestron in Orlando. Speaking of Crestron, first story is Crestron and the NFL. The New York Giants and Crestron have announced a partnership that combines football operations with Crestron business solutions. Crestron has transformed, quote unquote, the Giants draft room into a state-of-the-art facility, replacing a manual process with digital displays, streamline technology, and more. Crestron's control and DM platform have also been implemented in the team's classrooms and auditoriums, ensuring reliable technology, quote unquote, throughout the organization. This was on display during the 2024 NFL draft. Not to belabor the point, but the Bears came away with the best draft. But also, side note, projects were also kind of special for our friends at Crestron. Crestron's a New Jersey-based company. Lots of Giants fans there, including the head of Crestron, Dan Feldstein. Huge Giants fan. So that was kind of cool to see. Kristen, first question is for you. How important is it to, honestly, kind of your customers, but also, you know, IT managers, AV managers, to see that the gear that they use or the gear that you're specifying in high-profile events, high-profile spaces? Think the Olympics, right? The Olympics, as we're recording this, is 2-3 months away. There's already going to be projection mapping that's going to come out of that they're going to say, oh, we used X or we used Y at the Olympics. Super Bowl is the same way. You know, at AVNation, we get press releases after every big event, whether it's the Super Bowl or it's the Oscars or it's the Emmys. Oh, we used XYZ wireless microphone for this. How big of a deal is that for the customers at the end of the day?
I think it's a huge deal because you can see, and using Crestron as an example for the NFL draft, how important that technology actually is and how well it works. So,
okay.
You know, and using that kind of a technology, the Giants drafting room, it allows the Giants to be able to access information a lot faster than they would have without technology in the space, which means if they're using data analytics and statistics to do their drafts now, right? I mean, we've all heard of Moneyball 10 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago now, where the A's first used data analytics for their draft, and it changed the game for all sports. So if they're able to access information, understand it clearly, and Crestron's helping with that, I think that's a huge win for Crestron and extremely important to managers, because then they can take that application and say, no matter where I'm going, a smaller application or a larger application, that solution works. So I think it's very important. I think it's really important for manufacturers to get the press for that and to announce exactly what they've done. Case studies really help managers as well understand the capabilities of the technology, because someone designing that type of system or a manager looking for a similar system may not know that Crestron can do that. And so seeing that kind of
Good point.
application, they could be like, oh, wow, I thought only we could use that in a boardroom. We can use that for sports drafting spaces. Like I think it's very, very important.
Danny, when I saw this this case study, it reminded me of a movie, Kevin Costner and Jennifer Garner, called Draft Day. Not saying it's about the Cleveland Browns. It's actually a pretty good movie, especially if you're a football fan. But it reminded me of that because a lot of, especially the key points in that movie, happen in that draft room. They did not have this technology, but it reminded me of that. So how big of a deal when you're talking to your customers, if you're able to say, oh, hey, this headset that I'm talking to you about, or this this unified communications platform I'm talking to you about, has been used in a Fortune 100, Fortune 10 company.
Yeah, so it's hugely important, especially, we actually do support the Fortune 100. Large enterprise customers happen to be our bread and butter, or bulk of our business, but we also have our sister company, Hello Direct, that supports the SMB space. And so those folks need the same technology that these larger players need at a smaller scale, but they still have the same requirements in terms of needing to collaborate internally with each other, needing to collaborate and communicate with their customers, their vendors and partners outside of their organization. And so having high profile names, brands, companies utilizing this technology helps them feel somewhat like more professional, like they're in this technology space that not only SMBs are in, but if these large enterprises are doing it, it must be great for ours as well. So it's fairly important. But of course, you talk to other people. I did ask my wife this question. I said, what do you think about this technology being utilized in the with the New York Giants? Because she's a huge football fan. Me, not so much, but her, huge football fan. And she said, well, it doesn't really matter to me. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I care about if it's going to work for me and my needs and what I did. So whether it works with the Giants or not is irrelevant to her. What are her needs, and is it going to address them? And that's where, and so we have to look at it from both ways, because there's going to be folks on either side that say that, oh, that's fantastic, and others that say, well, I don't really care as long as it works for me and what I need.
Yeah. Brock, a little bit of a different question here, because I mentioned Fortune 100, Fortune 10 companies. There are some products, and I'm going to be very careful how I say this. There are some products and some manufacturers who are in very high profile spaces that cannot say that I'm not even going to go down the road of giving you verticals or the markets that they're in. But how can manufacturers leverage, like how can they convince these higher profile companies, right, that if you said, hey, your entire experience when you went here, or you went to this venue, was powered by X, right, or Y or Z. You can pick on anybody, but the companies, and there are various reasons, right? They don't want you, leveraging their brand and their market on for your product. So how can companies, how can manufacturers, and sometimes integrators, communicate that there are high profile uses of technology X, Y, and Z without, violating an NDA or making their customers mad?
So I think that's the difference between marketing and sales. Okay. The marketing information cannot say that they're using planar video screens in Apple stores, for example. Oh, wait. I just said that out loud.
You did.
Yeah, I did.
Brock McGinnis, not Tim Albright. Just want to point that out.
Not Kristen Bidwell either.
But the reality is that I've never read that on any planar information. Anecdotally, that may have been shared with me by a planar employee. Yeah. And so to me, that's a tremendous recommendation, right? And I think that when salespeople are involved in the process, there's an opportunity to share anecdotes and knowledge that isn't widely available. But it's always a fine line. I have to be careful when doing proposals for certain clients that I don't refer them to other clients because I signed an NDA.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, and I think that I think in manufacturers really just need to leverage their people and make sure their people know anecdotally that they can have those conversations. But we're under NDA, so don't tell anyone.
Because I have a rule, NDA is non-disclosure agreement. That's, not that everybody doesn't know that, but just to make sure I spell that out. Second story comes to us from our friends over at AV Network. James Careless writes about hybrid AV. He's writing about the effects, the lingering effects, quite frankly, of COVID-19, the pandemic, on educational institutions. According to Careless, these colleges have been grappling with the roles of hybrid learning and AV-enabled classrooms. While some believe that hybrid learning is here to stay, offering benefits such as flexibility and increased access, others argue that the desire for traditional in-person classes has resurfaced. Despite varying opinions, it is clear that the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of technology in education and brought about meaningful changes in teaching methods. James also quotes a number of higher education experts, including AVNation's own Erin May Moran. Erin is with Johns Hopkins. She's also heavily involved in HETMA, and she hosts our EdTech podcast. Erin says, quote unquote, brick and mortar schools will remain mostly in person until the culture for students shift. If students stop applying to standard in-person programs, that will drive the change more than anything. Now, Careless kind of wraps it up with a bit of a both sides ending. Kind of bugged me a bit, but it is what it is. He says that hybrid learning proved its worth, but in-person learning is still attractive. Danny, from your perspective, and I'm going to take not just education, but also work, right? And we can talk at length. This is only half an hour program, but we can talk at length about, the back to the office movement. Where is hybrid generically in both higher education and corporate?
Yeah, so this is a topic that many organizations struggle with. It's one of the reasons why they reach out to folks like us. Is there's this gap, there's this divide, and many organizations were flipped on their heads and had to make decisions very quickly, and they transitioned to maybe cloud platforms that they never would have thought of ever even engaging with. And so now we have this conundrum, because you have folks that have strong beliefs about being in person, physically being there. And then you have a new set of views on the world that hybrid or virtual is adequate or good enough to continue, whether it's education or whether it's business. You can still move forward. It doesn't stop you. And in fact, some would argue that it's actually even better in some cases, because now you open up the doors for a lot more inclusivity and giving people opportunities that may not be somewhere near some of these either larger universities or larger corporations. I could be in Idaho somewhere or North Dakota or Wyoming and still get a role at some of these larger organizations and do it virtually because I have the right technology, versus me having to pack up and leave everything I know to move to a different area, a different geography, just because of work or school. But yeah, we see it all the time, and there's no right answer, because we see organizations that have 1 day remote, 2 days, 3 days remote, even 4 days remote, right? And they all struggle. But the thing that's keeping everybody together is that technology. And one of the challenges that we have with clients when we either go on site or we do virtual demos is listening to the nightmares of technology that you. So you could, for example, you can be because they say it's not working. But then when you look at the space, let's say you're in a classroom or you're in a 30 by 50 meeting space. Well, it's not working because you have a webcam at the end of the room, in the front of the room, connected to a laptop, and then the audio scenario is poor because you're using this Bluetooth speaker that you bought off Amazon, and you stuck it in the middle of the table, and then you're saying, well, yeah, this hybrid's no good, virtual's no good, because it's a poor experience. But when you get the right technology it completely changes everything. And I think that's the challenge that we have is we have tons of great brands like Poly, Jabra, Logitech, Yealink, etc. They're making fantastic technology. The challenge that we have is the education. We have customers that are still utilizing 1980s technology, have 1980s mindsets, and they don't even know what's possible. They know what happened during the pandemic. I had a webcam and maybe a speakerphone or a headset, and so that's what they think they can translate into a boardroom or a conference room or even classroom, and it doesn't work. You need the appropriate technology for those spaces, and then I think they'd see a much better experience, whether it's in person or virtual. It doesn't matter. Technology makes it all better.
Brock, same question is where are we in this big debate?
How could I possibly follow up that? What a great answer, Danny. Because he teed it up
for you, brother. He just teed it right there.
We're all in the technology business in one way or another, and yes, it's in our best interest. So, hybrid to me is not a passing phase, and I'm not sure we even have to use the word anymore, because some people in every meeting will be in the room, and some people will be someplace else. They're going to be at Starbucks. They're going to be at home in their bunny slippers. Our company does 1 day a week in the office, Danny. And otherwise, engineers, project managers, people that aren't on job sites, they're working from home or wherever they need to be working. Now, that 1 day is very special. We don't actually count on getting any work done on Tuesdays because we spend time with each other and we meet. It's part of it is social bonding. Part of it is a lot of information sharing and problem solving and rolling plans out on desks, which is really fun because it's really hard to do online. So I'm surprised, Tim, somebody's actually writing an article thinking that hybrid would go away. There will always be places where business occurs. I mean, universities and colleges will always exist as physical institutions. Where else would the protesters go to set up their tent?
I worried about picking this story. I really did.
But I love this combination of being able to meet people like you, like us, online, have meaningful conversations, move on. I didn't have to drive anywhere. I didn't have to park. The moment we're done, we can all be moving on to something else, which for me is Friday afternoon, and I may just turn the lights out.
I know Brock well enough that there might be a golf game if it's warm enough up in Toronto.
It is warm enough.
Kristen, a little bit different question here is, so, and I'm picking on James Careless a bit. I don't know him, so he might be a fantastic person. But he ends it with a little bit of both sides, right? We don't know where. Okay, so when is this debate going to be shaken out? Like when are we going to be able to say, okay, this is our new experience, right? Where so much is hybrid, so much is in person, where we don't have to say, oh well, maybe we might be going back to physical, or maybe hybrid 100% of the time. Is it like how soon are we going to be able to say this is it? Let's go forward.
I wish it would have already been done, because this conversation has just dragged on and on.
Amen,
and on.
sister.
And I think, a lot of people, I read a lot of these articles and I'm like, hybrid started before COVID. COVID just accelerated the opportunities because we had to find the technology to accommodate COVID and the effects of COVID. So, I mean, there were universities already doing online classes. I was working remote at Sextant Group at the time. We were already remote across the country. So it wasn't a new thing for me. We already had everything set up already. So when COVID hit, it was just like, we just couldn't go on site as much. So it was, it already existed. I think and our team is fully remote. We work across 5 different states, so all of my employees work from home, and we're happy doing so. we do meet up. We'll go to the Red Sox game, or we'll go out to a really nice dinner in Connecticut, or meet in New York or something like that, or go to like an E4 trade show, which is awesome. But we're perfectly content working from home and collaborate very well online. So it works for us. And I think that companies just need to decide, what are we doing? And do that. And then you will be able to build your culture around that. But I think companies thinking that everyone's going to move back into New York City and they're going to go back into the office, no, they've already bought homes everywhere else. They're not. So, it's, and you fire them, okay, they're going to get another job where they can work remote. And I think it's kind of an old school mentality. It's understanding, hey, I can learn online. Very easy. I could take a class and regurgitate that information, and that's fine. And I love that opportunity. If I want to take a class online at Penn State, I don't have to go to Pennsylvania to do that, and I still get all of that great information that I want out of that class. So I think it's an awesome thing that's going on. But I think like companies that are trying to figure that out, I think you just have to make that decision and say, okay, we are in person, or we are not in person, or we are hybrid. And then that's just our culture. And this is the benefit. If I'm having you come back into the office, here's the benefit. Brock, I love that you guys get together and do social stuff and information sharing. That's incredible. And that's a really cool way to spend that day, instead of just saying, hey, you have to come back in, you have to sit in a cubicle and be miserable and look at your computer all day and then leave. No one wants to do that. So it's like, that actually has an added benefit. And I think culturally, every company just needs to decide. But I think saying, oh, well, hybrid's going to go away at this point. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And it's really, I think, up to every company to just decide, what works for you. But let's make that decision already and then move forward, because it's just like this dragging. Oh yeah, we're going to do it next year. Like, your employees don't like that either. They don't, if they're comfortable at home, they don't want to hear their CEO, well, in 6 months, we're going to go hybrid and, we're building out this new office. It's just like, okay, but maybe. No one wants to hear the maybe. It's like, what are we doing here and what's our culture? And then you can build it around that and make it great for yourselves. But yeah, I hope the conversation goes away soon.
I'll end the conversation with this. Mutual of Omaha, which is not exactly I almost said it's not a progressive company. I have no idea, but they're not exactly known for their cutting edge, stuff, right? Very conservative, very insurance. Like, these are, accountants, right? They just built a new building last year, and they built it, and I'm going to round numbers here, but let's say they have 5,000 employees in Omaha, okay? They built it to concurrently house 2,400. So here's a very conservative company that said, to Kristen's point, this is our direction, that there's not going to be any more than half y'all here at any given time. So we are moving forward on the hybrid model. So, all right, last story here. A couple stories came across my desk this week featuring a company called Moment Factory. Now, in our pre-chatter back and forth, I said I'd never heard of them, and Brock was like, "Oh my gosh, you're living under a rock." But on their website, it says they create shows and destinations, and both of these stories lend itself to that. They've featured in instances showing off their innovation use of technology to create immersive experiences. The Montreal-based studio collaborated with the rock band Fish to produce a visual backdrop for the Fish's concert at the Las Vegas Sphere, utilizing AI-assisted real-time and pre-rendered visuals powered by 23 Disguise media servers. In addition, the second story was Moment Factory's opening of a new interactive attraction in Miami devoted directly to the life and career of football star Lionel Messi. The Messi experience features 9 digital and interactive zones that lets visitors immerse themselves in Messi's journey. Brock, first of all, this is an amazing company. So how do we get more of this, right? How do we get more of not just Moment Factory? I hope they make $1 billion and they're everywhere. But things like this.
So I have been experiencing the kinds of things that Moment Factory does probably for 25 years. Okay. They do opening ceremonies of Olympics. and there's there are a lot of innovative, artistic people kind of clustered in Montreal. They're in the video gaming industry. They're in the event industry. So this is where Cirque du Soleil came from, and all of the and the Moment Factory people have traditionally been part of that kind of creative group. Very unique. And the magic part is they find people who have the budgets to be able to fund what they do. I was looking at that fish information actually when Danny first logged on. I was playing fish music because I'd realized that I hadn't listened to the band for a long time, and it's really good music. And apparently, you don't have to use cannabis in order to enjoy it. So I was having a great a great time. We live. We used to want to go to places. I grew up in this traditional kind of Leave It to Beaver family. And we had a list of vacation spots that we wanted to go to every summer. And we'd go to, dip our toes in the Pacific Ocean and then dip our toes in the Atlantic Ocean. And then it became, well, you want to go to Disneyland, and then you want to go to Disney World, and you want to go to Paris, and you want to go to Amsterdam. Well, now people don't want to go to places. They want to have experiences. They want to feel something. They want to be part of something, and they want to go, oh, wow, and so for creators, and those unique creative people that can put you in the oh wow, whether that's at, I think it's called Area 15 in Las Vegas, and Meow Wolf is there. Whether that is one of the immersive Dolly exhibits that go around, where you walk into a big room and there are paintings. Maybe it's Renoir, maybe I forget who all they do, but brands have certainly started to understand this, that are marketing. They will attract us. They're not just selling Lionel Messi in Miami. They're selling soccer tickets. They're selling the sport. And they're also bringing together a community of a lot of, Central and South Americans that are there in one place. And I have to think that it's going to be a huge destination for people who are football fanatics to go and visit. That's awesome. And that's that, and everybody will have their photo on Instagram of them, being part of that experience. It's been a really interesting evolution of society, for sure.
Kristen, as you're talking to clients and whether they say they want an exceptional experience or not, how do you lead them down that path and create more of these, as Brock says, experiential destinations?
Each client is different. I think having that for us, we do a lot of commercial spaces, some of the experiential museum type of spaces. And it really starts with trying to understand what their message is. What are they trying to get across? So Brock just mentioned, it's not just Messi, it's the sport. It's the selling tickets. It's where's the real value add? I mean, I'm a huge Messi fan. I would personally love to go see that. Maybe next InfoComm, I can take a trip down, but it's, he's absolutely right. And it's selling that whole brand of soccer. Right. And it's, similar to what we saw when I was in high school. The women's soccer team, was amazing. And so, I mean, I've always played soccer since I was, first grade. But that really inspired me. I was like, oh, wow, like you can actually do this as like a career. And like I started getting, calls for colleges. And it was just like all of a sudden it became a thing for girls my age where it wasn't before. And like the whole movement really sold us on the sport. And I think that if the women's soccer team at that time wasn't doing so well, maybe I don't know if I would have been as motivated to play in college, you know? And so it was, he's absolutely right. So I think when we're talking to clients, it's kind of like, okay, what do you want to have? You want to have a video wall in your lobby. You want to have this amazing museum experience, but what's that underlying content doing for you? What is that experience doing for people that walk through your space? And I think really understanding that leads to those spaces, and then we can kind of show examples of what's possible, and then people's minds are somewhat blown because a lot of people don't know about those spaces either. So like showing them, hey, this is what's going on. And luckily, like places like the Sphere, now everyone knows about it. So that's a great example of an immersive experience. You know, but on a much smaller scale, it's like, okay, you want to have this, you want to invest in it. Where's your value add? And then we go from there. But we are definitely finding that most clients want some kind of experience in their space. They don't just want the space. So it's, I think it's an incredibly important feature of our clients' locations.
Just so it's been said, if you are going to InfoComm in Las Vegas, the remaining members of the Grateful Dead will be playing at the Sphere that week. So if that's your jam,
cool.
There you go. Danny, I'll ask end this one on you. You know, how do you get out of your clients what they want, right? Because sometimes they're like, "Oh, I need this," right? And it's like, okay, you know, check the box and put the PO through. How do you get like that out of them when you're trying to say, you know, when they're trying to explain what it is ultimately that they're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so that's interesting that this whole immersive experience thing happened, because we actually converted. So we decided, our CEO decided, work where you work best. So the majority of the employees work remotely. We were able to open up our hiring outside of Florida, but that left an empty space. So what did we do with the space? So that's when it started with Logitech. We converted. How do we get people to understand that what this technology does? Because you can talk about a video bar, you can show them all the spec sheets, but until you actually experience what it does, you don't really know. And so we have converted our office or our headquarters into a customer experience center. And so we have different rooms, and they're all themed differently. So we have the Logitech room, which is kind of like a space theme. It was the first one. So it's kind of a cool little space theme. We have the HP Poly room, which is more of a corporate type looking space. We have the Neat experience space, which is crazy purple, the neat purple colors all over. And it has the neat board that you can wheel around to show people that you can move this thing wherever. We have the Jabra space with a kind of signature Teams room, and their Panicast 50 VBS. And we have also little personal workstations all over. And then we have the Owl Labs room, and then now we're building out the Yealink experience room. But what happens is we bring customers in, and this is what I was saying before, until you show people what's possible and available, they don't know. They really don't know. And so when they come into this room, we ask them, when you walk into the meeting space that you want us to work on, what is it that you want to do in that space? Are you training? Are you collaborating? Are people just sitting there listening? What is happening in that space? And it's actually even better to do like a virtual demo, to do an in-person demo, but it's better when we actually go on site and see their space, because they leave out a lot of things. So sometimes when they come into our space, we show them something as simple as a Logitech Scribe. People may have heard of it. They don't know about it, but we ask them, what do you do with your dry erase whiteboards today? Do you use them in meetings? They're like, oh yeah, we use them all the time. How do you share that whiteboard, that dry erase analog whiteboard in a video meeting? Oh, we take a picture, right? And then they send it, right? I said, well, what if you could do this? And then this is the beauty of an experience room. What if you could and you press that little purple button, and there's your whiteboard in the meeting, in the Zoom meeting. And now people can actually see it, and you're ghosted. You like disappear because of the technology. So it's a better experience being a remote participant. But now they see this technology. And so now their minds their wheels start spinning, because now they start to realize There are things that are possible that they weren't aware of, they weren't even thinking of, because they had never experienced that technology. The same with the framing modes. Like, you can take a room with, like, in the neat space, you can take 16 people and put them in their own little frame without having to touch anything, without having to do anything. You just show up, and the technology enables you to focus on your business, and the technology just captures it and lets everybody have a great experience, whether you're physically in the room or joining remotely. And that's when we talk about experiences, we have to show them. And the best way to do that is to book a demo and then start asking those questions. What about this? Do you guys ever need to do this? Because sometimes they don't know because they've never seen it or experienced it. So that's how we do it.
That's a good place to stop. Thank you all so much. Kristen Bedwell, brand spanking new CEO. Welcome, ma'am. Oh, thank you, ma'am. Congratulations again. She is the CEO of AV Consulting Team. How do people connect with you or the AV Consulting Team?
I'm all over LinkedIn, but you can also go to the website, avconsultingteam.com, and just go to our contact page and reach out. We'd be happy to collaborate with you.
All right, very good. Mr. McGinnis, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Nationwide?
I'm Brock at nationwideav.com if they wanted to reach me, but you'll find me on LinkedIn. Occasionally, I'm still on Twitter. And about every 6 weeks, they can tune in right here and hear me on AVNation.
That's actually accurate. So every 6 weeks. Danny, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. How do people connect with you? How do people connect with Call One? And how do they access your fantastic YouTube channel?
Yeah, so actually they can just Google Danny Hayasaka, right? And you'll see I got a YouTube channel at Call One Inc. is our handle there. And just if you look up Danny Hayasaka, you're gonna find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I post constantly. I'm on Instagram. You can go to my TikTok. You're gonna see my dog Otis. So I'm all over.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me on anything. I'm not very exciting. I'm still talking about the Bears. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. Brand spanking new EdTech just dropped. We're recording this on Friday, so today. But by the time you get this, it'll still be up there. We talked about Infocom a couple times. That's happening the 12th to the 14th of June in Las Vegas. We, of course, will be there. By the time, this time next week, we'll have information on the tweet up. If you're going, we'd love to see you. 12th on June 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. over in the West Hall. So we'll have more information on that coming on the website. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.